If the games I played this year are at all telling of how the gaming landscape is changing, then we truly have some of the best years to come. Accessibility continues to become more of a priority in gaming. Indie games are getting the respect they deserve. Video game adaptations are starting to outshine some of the games they're based on. It felt like every month I was hearing about a remaster that perfectly recreated the vision of the original, and boy did I play none of them. 2023 was such an insane year. The Game of the Year nominees were ridiculous. These aren't all just great games, these are games that break into the most critically acclaimed games of all time. Upper 90s on Metacritic type games. There were still a few bummers. Rocket League is slowly being taken apart by Epic Games. Gollum the game plays like Gollum the character talks. And I think Fortnite is Roblox now? Video game discourse is decaying my frontal lobe. The year is 2023. Baldur's Gate 3 almost kills Larian Studios from how demanding it is to develop, yet people are saying this should be the new standard for RPGs. And I'm playing Rhythm Tetris. The scale of games gets bigger every year, and with Baldur's Gate's success, I have a funny feeling that trend will continue. But some of the best experiences I had this year were in games made by one guy. Your Only Move is Hustle caught my eye with the concept alone, turning a fast-paced platform fighter into a slower strategy game. Brotato ate a month of my life with just an addicting gameplay loop. Everhood made me question my existence with pixel visuals and rhythm gameplay. Ring of Pain ate another month of my life. While the game industry heads towards a non-sustainable focus on scale, some of the best releases of 2023 were the games that purposefully stayed small. Now, I'm not saying every game should be smaller, or we shouldn't be making games with big open worlds. Obviously, there is a place for games that push the limits of the medium. I'm just saying Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year for a reason. It's not a new standard, it's an accomplishment that most game companies would go bankrupt attempting to achieve. Is this more of a critique on the phrase, "this should be the new standard"? Kinda, but I think it's valid to say that we shouldn't be saying that every time we find something that exceeds our standards. Maybe it's just not practical to meet those standards. I suppose I should actually start talking about my favorites. It embarrasses me how much I enjoyed playing through Sonic Frontiers, because I can so clearly see every flaw the game has. How much it relies on mechanics and aesthetics created by Breath of the Wild, the ridiculous dialogue, the glitches and jank, invisible walls, but even with all those problems, you have to understand that this still makes it the best 3D Sonic in 20 years. Dying Light has online co-op.
Take a leap of faith, Brannick.
Do you have to all gather? Oh. This makes Dying Light a 10 out of 10 game. Resident Evil 6 has a problem that I think a lot of other third-person shooters suffer from. It's not Resident Evil 4. The shift from Resident Evil 3 to 4 was already a massive one, going from a horror game with action to more of an action game with horror. But it still held on to what made Resident Evil Resident Evil. That goofy, over-the-top, campy vibe was more present than ever. The shift from 4 to 5 wasn't so smooth. We were now barely holding on to the horror aesthetics. The games were slowly turning into generic third-person zombie shooters, and then the shift to Resident Evil 6. This is Gears of War. This is just Gears of War. Resident Evil 6 tries a lot. Every character story plays differently, but Leon's is the only one that feels somewhat like Resident Evil. So why is Resident Evil 6 even on this list? Because Resident Evil 6 has online co-op.
I'm alive. Never mind.
This makes it a 10 out of 10 game. While the co-op puzzle game genre continues to grow, I still feel like there's only 2 developers that are actually trying. Total Mayhem Games always knocks it out of the park with its We Were Here games, and while this year's release felt more like a snack than a full nutritious meal, it still hit the spot. There's more of a focus on coordination this time around, in lieu of the typical We Were Here gameplay where the information is split between the players equally. The friendship is a trust fall, and beating it requires intensive collaboration, which I can't say for some of the previous games. In basically every competitive shooter I've played, I main the character that feels most out of place. I like playing a game that no one else is playing, and in Overwatch, nobody is playing the same game. They just have the same objectives and the same teammates yelling at them. This guy's playing COD, that guy's sniping, those guys are teleporting around with SMGs, this guy called me a donkey, but while you losers are playing an FPS, I'm over here rolling around playing Super Monkey Ball. I've played a lot of hero shooters, but I've never seen one go this ham with its characters, pun intended. How is this game real? So many creative ideas animated with so much character. Humanity peaked with Wrecking Ball. There are so few similarities between characters, it is seriously a miracle that this game is somewhat balanced at all. Some characters can just fly. That isn't normal. There's a reason you don't see people flying around in Counter-Strike. Once you break as many rules as Overwatch does, balancing becomes a lot more complicated than just buffing a character's damage or health. You have to think about the maps, the modes, the way the characters interact with each other. Overwatch is not an easy game to balance by any means, but that won't stop me from complaining.
Had no good plays there.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'll be the one I'm thinking of. Yeah!
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my
so juicy.
god! Oh, Jesus Christ!
So many games rely so heavily on combat that it's kind of insane to see a game like Spelunky make it so secondary. You have a whip, but its range is disappointing. You have bombs, but those are a valuable resource. Your main weapon is game knowledge, knowing how to deal with enemies, how to avoid specific traps. It's an interesting break from the typical gameplay loop of a normal roguelike, more so focused on slow, methodical decision-making rather than just fighting your way through everything. Spelunky 2 has online co-op. I didn't know it could have gone that bad. This makes the game a 10 out of 10. Boomerang X is a very literal interpretation of the movement shooter genre. You move with the thing you shoot. And it rules. You only get one weapon in this game, but it expands so much on this main mechanic that I never even considered a second weapon. The gameplay of slingshotting from kill to kill gives this game such a natural flow. It's such a creative idea, executed in such an expertly crafted experience from beginning to abrupt end. Fury demands your focus with its music, its cinematic presentation, its art direction. Everything about this game just fits together to make something that maintains your attention from start to finish. We'll say it's a little shorter than I expected. Hi-Fi Rush feels untouched by trends and practices of big game companies in 2023. Time was spent on this game, enough for it to be finished properly, not rushed out the door for a deadline. It just released because it was done, it was finished. It feels like this game was made in a vacuum with no influence of what makes or saves the most money. It's kind of unheard of outside of indie games. There's no battle pass, no store. They continued to release huge free updates that added more content, and most importantly, the game itself rules. Emotive characters, creative bosses, endearing humor. I'm pretty sure Robbie Damon is a collection of humans in one body. This game was just really good. I've beat a lot of platformers that try to feel fast, but the problem with most is the fast sections are usually used as pacing. It's completely understandable. Designing speed games comes with its challenges, and honestly, I've only seen a couple games get it right, and Pizza Tower is one of them. See, the issue is you need to give the player a reason to go fast. Some games encourage beating levels in under a specific amount of time, some games just make going fast intuitive and fun. Pizza Tower does a little of both. The run to the end of the level isn't fast, it's the warm-up. Pizza Tower teaches you to go fast, with a prep run through the level and a little panic-induced motivation. As much as I want to talk about the negatives of Ori and the Blind Forest, everything else about this game completely eclipses the flaws. Ori doesn't really do anything groundbreaking for the Metroidvania genre, at least in game design. Visually, it speaks for itself. Everything in this game is glowing, and the magic of it really never wears off. I still look at the visuals of this game as if they're ancient runes, and the music just further sets that enchanting vibe in stone. I have no idea how you even start making a game that looks like this, let alone animate it as smoothly as they did. Ori doesn't stand out with its formula, it stands out with its art direction. Its mere identity is what makes it worth playing. And although I have my problems with it, Ori and the Blind Forest still blows most other Metroidvanias out of the park. Out of the water park. Get out of the water park. Whenever I'm away from God of War, sometimes I'll just miss feeling the weight of Kratos' axe. That is the level of polish that 2018's God of War maintains throughout more than 20 hours of gameplay. It refuses to cut corners. Every environment a spectacle, every line said with such sincerity, every melody impactful. It's one of the only AAA games I've played that actually feels like a $60 experience, and I think a lot of that is thanks to the animation. Look at this move. I call it Big Choppy. It's my favorite move. Follow through is what I think about with this game's combat, and not just the gameplay. Every swing of the Leviathan axe communicates such weight just by the little moment of Kratos regaining control of the swing. It's no trivial task to communicate the weight of an object when this is the guy holding it. But the animation team just did such a stellar job with this game, and I don't think I could talk about this game without at least mentioning this soundtrack. I've listened to that main theme so many times when drawing, and no matter how stupid the drawing is, I would feel like a warrior going into battle.
Why, hello there. No?
He just walked on in.
Oh, yep.
This game can't be real. I love proximity chat with all of my being, and I have not seen a game do it like Lethal Company does.
Guys, I'm gonna get eaten by a...
The way it muffles when you're in a different room.
I'm not afraid of you anymore.
No, don't go up there.
Oh, God!
The echoing in large areas.
Wait, I'm standing on it?
Lethal Company takes proximity chat to another level, and it naturally breeds some of the funniest clips I've ever gotten in a game.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so you're gonna attract the bees away.
Wait,
What
Okay.
bees?
Nothing.
Don't look inside.
Don't look.
No. What is that?
And then, you get lost by yourself. Hello? And suddenly it dawns on you that this is a horror game. Single-player horror is inherently isolating, but that juxtaposition of laughing with your friends to complete isolation makes for stomach-dropping moments only games like Lethal Company can achieve.
So far, it's been good things. But I'm scared to when it's not going to be a good thing.
Nonsense, they wouldn't do that to us. Right, Jose? I truly cannot believe how well designed this game is, down to the choice of setting. It's impressively original, but still very in character when it uses already existing horror concepts. 50 hours in, and I still come out of every session out of breath laughing. If you're at all interested, get some friends and give it a try. You will not regret it. No! The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was simultaneously my most and least anticipated game of 2023. Most because it's Nintendo and they truly never seem to miss with their mainline Zelda games. And least because I was worried that it would kind of just be a Breath of the Wild Deluxe. And I gotta say, both of me were right. Breath of the Wild was such a landmark game that it felt obvious that they would keep with the formula for the next Zelda. But building off the map of Breath of the Wild ran the risk of it feeling like the same game. And it does. Look at screenshots from both games and it's like a spot the difference. It controls the same, plenty of areas from Breath of the Wild are marginally unchanged, mostly the same enemies, mostly the same items, but Tears of the Kingdom only kept what made Breath of the Wild work. Tears of the Kingdom exists because this version of Zelda had more to offer. When Breath of the Wild released, everyone stopped. Every person playing it just awestruck at the scale of this game. The freedom of exploration was magic, just as much it was magic that the Nintendo Switch was running it. And now, here we are with Tears of the Kingdom. And this is clearly witchcraft. You know, even with the length of the script, I still had a bunch of other games I wanted to cover. The Finals has promise, might even last a whole year. Played Ring of Pain, Monster Train, Slay the Pain. Ollie Ollie World had a character customizer I spent more time in than the actual game. Played 4 different Tetris games, and Tetrio is still the best. Batman Arkham Asylum was a little slow, and I made a total of 2 videos this year. I'm looking forward to 2024. I'm stalling. I don't know how to talk about this last game. I want to preface this by saying no matter what I say, this game is more. I could say the most appreciative and dramatic compliments about this game, and it would not be nearly enough to accurately measure my love for this game. Outer Wilds is different. I know I just talked about how much I love all these other games, but none of them touch Outer Wilds. It's such a magical game about exploration and discovery to a level I thought Breath of the Wild had maxed out for me, but Outer Wilds is different. Nothing is even close. It re-sparked that sense of childlike wonder in the small time I had with it. I think back on my playthrough like I actually went to space in real life. Outer Wilds doesn't have the most addicting gameplay loop. There's no engaging combat, there isn't even a go-to genre I'd apply to it. So the process of getting into Outer Wilds was exactly that, a process. It took time, and since I have the brain that I do, a lot of effortful reading and paying attention to get myself really hooked. I know, gross. But I can only wish that you experienced this game with as little information on it as I did. I haven't even shown you any gameplay. I really care for this game, because it creates a sense of immersion that breaks the fourth wall. The way you think about Outer Wilds changes dimensions. Nothing is like it. Outer Wilds is different, and I think you should explore it.